everyone, Amy Kennedy here, ceramic artist from Melbourne, Australia. This video is about approaching galleries with your art and your craft. It is inspired by a beautiful artist that I had the pleasure of working with a couple of years ago in the International Artist Program, Diletta Rondoni, who lives in Umbria in Italy. And she sent me this message. This is exactly what she wrote last week. And she said, "I would love to know more about approaching and presenting works to a gallery. Do you have any tips?" I have tips, Maria. I have 9 tips. I think there are a million tips on this sort of thing, but I've got 9 that I've been really considering quite carefully over the last couple of days. So Maria is in Umbria. I am in Melbourne. You may be in Ireland. You may be in Texas. The gallery scene is different in these different places. It has different histories. It's got different nuances. But I think that my 9 tips, I like to think, are universal truths about the whole approaching gallery situation. So buckle up and take some notes if this is something that interests you. My tips here come from 20 or so past years as a practicing ceramic artist, exhibiting in galleries and different places, and the past 15 years working in a gallery, being a gallery worker. So I've seen things from both sides of the fence, so to speak, and I have been privy to a lot and observed a lot, and it's been a very interesting educational experience. Before I go into the tips, disclaimer here, I don't know if disclaimer is exactly the right word to use, but you never have to exhibit in a gallery. You never have to be represented by a gallery to have made it. I have conversations with many different artists and craftspeople, and it's often the thing to be represented by a gallery. When I'm represented by a gallery, I have made it, or that person's represented by a gallery, their life must be awesome now. Some people have great relationships with galleries and they're mutually beneficial and supportive, and they grow and they get value back from their art and they reach new clientele, and it's really life-changing. Some people have awful relationships with galleries where they feel restricted and hemmed in. They're not respected. They're not paid on time, if they're paid at all. There's the whole gamut. If this is something that is interesting you, it is one of your goals, you've written it down, you've said it out loud, really drill down and find out exactly what that means to you being represented by a gallery. What does that include? What would that look like to you? And then you've got a little bit of information that if you do want to approach a gallery, you've got a bit of an area that you're thinking about that's important to you. And even before I go into the first tip, I could do a whole nother 1,000-part video series on the part before you get to the gallery. You get to the part of introducing yourself to a gallery, is that you've got to have some work, right? You know, this seems pretty obvious, but you've got to have some stuff. You've got to have some physical stuff. Oh, it doesn't actually even have to be physical these days. It could be digital. But you've got to have it. You've got to be feeling pretty good about it. You've got to have a certain level of confidence, not ultimate supreme confidence, but there's a bit of confidence there. You think, yeah, it's got something special. And I'm ready to be curious about this gallery world, and I want to investigate it. So you need that first, obviously. Tip number 1, research the gallery. This is obvious. You'll be doing the research online, the website, the social media. You'll be, online, checking them out. But if at all possible, if that gallery is anywhere near you in your town, city, vicinity, state, you have to visit in person. What would it be like if you did approach a gallery and they liked your work and they got back to you and they said something like, I'm just thinking in my mind, and they said, "Oh, we really like your work. When did you last visit our gallery? What exhibition did you really enjoy when you visited?" And you say, "Oh, actually, I haven't visited," and it's in the same city or the same town. It's not a good look. So always visit. There's that reason, but it's much more, the more valuable reason to visit is you go in as a visitor, not as an artist introducing their work. You go in as a visitor and you have your antennae up, your little detective cap on, and you're taking mental notes about things like, what sorts of exhibitions do they have here? Are they all solo? Are they 2-person? Are they group? Are they thematic? What sort of artists do they have? What stage of their career are they at? Are they all early career? Is it all emerging? Is it all established? Is there a mix? Where would I fit in that? What are the mediums that are represented in that gallery? Is it medium specific? Is it across the board? Where would I fit? What are the price points of the different work that is a little bit like mine? Do I have a track record of selling works at that price point? Could I ask for those prices? All this sort of information is useful. This is a tip within the tip. My gallerist, she has this great thing that she talks to people about when they're coming and showing their work to her. And she says, you have to imagine that your work is next to the work in the gallery that you're visiting. And you have to get a sense if your work will hold its own against the current work that gallery is showing. Would it be able to hold its own, or would it look undercooked or underdone? And this is where you have to be really honest with yourself. You have to be able to see your work. So this is a good test, this comparing your work and where it would sit to work that is currently in that gallery that you're interested in. Another thing in your research, so this is still tip number one, another thing in your research is to get a sense of the people. These people that work at this gallery are going to represent you and your work. This is a pretty important job. They're going to be the middle person, the intermediary between your art and the person that's going to love your art and purchase it. So you've got to determine what qualities that you want, ideally, these people to have. Are they friendly? Do they welcome you into the gallery as a visitor? Do they strike up a conversation? Can you easily strike up a conversation with them about the exhibition that's currently on? How are they talking to other people in the gallery about the work? What is the general vibe of the whole situation? This is really useful information. So research online, of course, research in person as a visitor. Don't tell them that you're an artist unless it comes up in the conversation. You're not going in as an introduction. You're going in as a visitor and a detective. Tip number 2 is a shorter one. Never, ever, ever go into a gallery with your sculpture under your arm, your painting under your arm, and walk on in and say, what do you think of my work, people? And really drop yourself into their whole day, their whole space, and interfere with their time and demand their time. I think it is not a good look at all. I would never do that. I think people have probably done that and it's worked out really well for them, but on a general rule, never do that. It's disrespectful and not a good way to start the whole conversation. So the conversation is via email. Tip number 3, so you're getting towards the email to introduce your work to this gallery that you think could be suitable. This is another short tip too. And if you remember only one tip from this whole video, I hope this is something that you remember. Find out the name of the person that you're sending the email to, the director, the gallery manager, and use their name. Doesn't take much time to find their name. You can find it online and use it. This is really important. Tip number 4. So this is the email. So in this tip number 4, I'm describing what you can possibly contain in that email. A pretty short email, to the point. And this is where you make it your own. You know, I do have a framework, but I don't really have a set formula for this. It's what you want to say and how you want to say it. But these are the things to consider if this is sort of new to you and you're not sure. Is, of course, you're telling a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your work, what you make, you know, what medium you work in. Is the technique or the processes crucial to that? Maybe you want to tell them a little bit about that. You want to tell them a bit about your why, your drive, your ideas, why you do this thing. You want to tell them a bit about your experience. I'm speaking fast here. It sounds like I'm speaking fast. You might want to take some notes or go back to the recording. Your experience, your background, your achievements. What are you working on now? What's coming up? You show them you're currently practicing. You're very active. You want to somewhere indicate that you are knowledgeable about their gallery, either by in-person visit or online experience, or you're just very familiar. You want to have a little bit about that. And then I always recommend to the artists in my programs is that they finish off with something like, I would love to be considered, thank you. No assumptions, just I'd love to be considered. And then sign off, and then name, email, phone, website, Instagram, etc. So that's a lot to contain in a relatively short email. You can do it. Tip number 5. I think I'm up to tip number 5. Hold on, let me just check my notes. Tip number 5, yes, is images. So this is really even more important than the email is the images. Usually people will just scan the email and they'll go straight to the images, especially if it's a gallery. So you want your really good images. This is an obvious thing. Some little things is that the images are not too big, that they don't overload the person's email. Maybe you would consider sending 5 to 8 images. I think the jury is out on if you can only send images of work that is available or you can send images of work that is sold. This is a decision that you have to make. This isn't, I don't think it's cut and dry here. I have approached a gallery in the past that I was really interested in. I didn't have any available works, so I showed them recent works that had sold. I don't think it's a good idea to be working on a full collection, lots and lots of works before you approach a gallery. You know, if you've got some work, you don't have to have a lot. I would approach them with what you've got, but it's really, really good. And tip 6, so stay with me. I've got 3 more tips to, I've got 4 more tips to go. Tip 6 is what to attach to that email. This is quick. So I would be attaching things like your CV, your artist statement, your artist bio, or a combination of them. If you have just been in a really glorious publication, or you've been in an article, I would attach the PDF of that too. So tip number 7, so just after tip number 6, you've done the email, you've got the attachments, you've got the images, you've done the research, is you want to hit send. That's important. You want to take a deep breath and you want to hit send. And then probably 99% of the time, it will be crickets. It will be crickets until you do tip number 7, which is the follow-up. So a week, 2 weeks passes, you want to touch them, you want to prompt them to get a response. So just on that email thread, just email them and say something like, just making sure that you received my email, look forward to hearing from you, done. And then they can see the email that you originally sent below. If you don't hear back after that, maybe you'd leave it a week, another 2 weeks, and you do another touch, the 3rd. And if you haven't heard back from that, I would probably let it settle for a while. And if you're still really keen, maybe in a few months or down the track, when you have something new to share with them, or new images or a great achievement, maybe you can try approaching them again. Tip number 8. This is really, really important. All of these tips are important, but this is important. Tip number 8 is the attitude that you go into this with. And the attitude is you're not locked in. You don't have that white knuckle control. You are open. You know, you are just introducing your work. You're letting people know that you are there, that you are visible, that you're making stuff, that you're really happy with what you're making, that you're keen, that you're excited, that you're interested, that you're open. And that's the attitude that you go in with this. And you're open to what may happen. Something may happen, nothing may happen, but you've got to send it out there and just see what happens. So go in with a bit of a light, it's hard, it can be a bit stressful and nerve-wracking, but a light attitude, like hold it lightly. And my final tip, looking on my paper here, my final tip is tip number 9 is, and it's related to tip number 8, but after you have done it, after you have hit the send, it's done, is you forget about it. And you go back into your studio, you go back into your making place, you get your hands dirty, and you get back into the thing, into the reason why you do this thing in the first place, right? All of this peripheral stuff, galleries, Instagram, writing about our work, I don't know, networking, it's all peripheral stuff. It's important, but the key, I know I'm talking to you, the key reason you do this stuff is because you love making the stuff. So when you send the thing off to the gallery and you've done your follow-up, don't get in your head about it, forget about it, and get back into making. This is the most important thing. What else do I have to say here? I've talked for a while. I really want to say thank you to Maria for the inspiration for this video. As I said, I hope some things can be translated into the Italian scene over there, Maria. I hope I haven't talked a million miles an hour. If you have any follow-up questions, get in touch if anyone does. Like I said at the beginning, this is not comprehensive, and there may be things in here that are really obvious that I haven't said. So please continue the conversation in the comments below, and we can pull our collective wisdom and experience on this. So if there's something that's really important, you think, Amy, you missed that, pop it below, and then we can all benefit and we can all help each other from the conversation. So this is really just a starter of the conversation and maybe some useful things that you might want to consider. And again, you never have to do this. You have the choice. And I'm telling artists in my programs, in the Evolve program, in the International Artist program, all the programs that I work with artists in, is the key thing that I really want artists to get from it is that they have the confidence to make their own decisions. Just because everyone wants to be represented by a gallery doesn't mean you do. Just because everyone wants 10,000 followers on Instagram doesn't mean you do. Just because everyone's walking off a cliff doesn't mean you want to do that either. So it's really important, and I know I'm beating a bit of a drum here, but it's really important that you get clear on where you want to go and you make that decision in a really clear, honest way with yourself. So these are my 9 tips for introducing your work to a gallery. Thank you again, Maria. I hope this is useful information. Please pop your comments and questions below in the comments section. I'll be back here soon, and yeah, have a great day.